About the 5 E's and the hero's journey. In contrast to traditional school, in the senior year of my high school, we wrote our own plays, which helped us socialize and engage with content, and that really inspired me and is still in my head to this day. Of course, we had some previous experience acting in plays, mostly from the Shakespeare works, Juliet and Romeo, and some other content, but it just really made us excited that we could finally write our own content. And I was kind of sad that we didn't do as much of that in undergrad. For our modularity, it would be primarily in-person synchronous, but some of the parts can be asynchronous, and of course some somewhat asynchronous parts such as Google Docs and other tools can of course be used by students. So our goals will be to observe the students and how they engage in constructivism, in particular with the 5 E's, and teach them about the hero's journey. So what is constructivism? Constructivism is people constructing their own understanding of the world through experiences and reflections. Here is a preview of the 5 E's, but we'll go a little bit deeper into each of them later on. The first of the 5 E's is engagement. Teachers can introduce a problem, show a video clip, ask a thought-provoking question. To start class discussion, provide a demonstration such as an experiment, or just tell an anecdote. For our example, we're going to ask a question. Now, can anyone answer what the plot similarities are between The Hunger Games, Star Wars, pretty much any movie, or an episode of Rick and Morty? And you'll take some time, and you may take some time and pause this video to think about that for a second, just like the students. And perhaps I recommend maybe 5 to 10 minutes thinking about it, but feel free to take as long or little as you want. The second E is exploration. In this phase, students actively explore the new concepts through concrete learning experiences and can use guided inquiry activities that allow students to share observations, use critical thinking, and collaborate. So a common example for this may be creating a timeline, such as in a history class. In our example, students will create a timeline of fictional events in 2 of the previous entries, such as a movie of The Hunger Games, or a movie of Star Wars, or an episode of Rick and Morty, and then they will see if there's any plot similarities between them. And at first, you may think, oh, these are not similar at all, but upon further expansion, you may see that, oh, there's all a mentor figure, and where do they appear in the story, and such. And as you can see below, here is a somewhat more of a complex timeline of a lot more events in the story, but this can still be helpful to see where the similarities lie in between each story. For this activity, I recommend perhaps 4 to 5 students. Groups can watch individually at different times and share notes, or they can watch together and then come to a consensus on what the timeline is later on. Technically, the students should be looking for the most important parts of each story, but these students should be able to summarize and use their critical thinking skills to come up with such timeline already. The third phase is explanation. It is a teacher-led phase that helps students synthesize new knowledge and ask questions if they need further clarification. In this phase, the teacher will ask what they learned, and then the teacher will introduce the technical information. In our case, we will be asking about the similarities of the 2 stories that they analyzed, while the teacher can simultaneously fill out the general hero's journey plotline on a board or a projection, however they want to do so. And this is an example of how to fill in the timeline. So you would replace event A with the first event. Student answer something specific, such as a unique character doing something, the teacher can simply ask what they represent in the story generally. For instance, Luke meets Ben can be translated into the protagonist meets a mentor or teacher figure. As long as it's close enough, then the teacher can use their own description to decide, hey, yeah, This is a part of the general thing we're looking for, and of course that would be the general third plot point in the hero's journey. And this is a visual depiction of the hero's journey. While somewhat traditional, at some point a paper can be given out that lists all the terms in the hero's journey, and sometimes their translation, as sometimes it can be somewhat confusing to relate them, such as resurrection being the final challenge being completed, or returning with elixir does not literally mean coming back with an elixir, but more generally, coming back with a reward. The fourth phase is elaboration. This focuses on giving students space to apply what they've learned, such as creating performances, portfolios, and other content. This is my high school's final English project, and again, we had a lot of fun doing it. For this fourth step, this can use the same groups from previous steps, or new groups can be given. I still recommend having 4 to 5 students, but depending on how much time you have and how you want to utilize that time as a teacher, you can change the group sizes and other requirements in the project. In our case, the students will be doing a performance by writing a play and performing it. Our general requirements will include that would be 10 to 15 minutes long. It will include every group member in the acting portion and hopefully in the writing portion. It will include at least 75% of the aspects in the hero's journey. There are some aspects that are not included to be part of the trope of a hero's journey, such as some do not have a mentor figure, some have a darker tone at the last portion of the story, and it's kind of like in a gray area. But we will try to accommodate for the creativity of the students, though. The audience will be a classroom setting. Some teachers wish their performances to be in front of an auditorium, but I do not necessarily want the students to go through another layer of stress. The final step, evaluation, is split into 3 different evaluation modes. First of all is individual. This is somewhat an informal process, as this aspect can reflect on the constructivist versus traditional learning, but the student may speak about a variety of other factors. And I would not recommend this portion to be graded, or at least that harshly in comparison to other portions, even though this is an English class. Some reflections may also be done as kind of a homework assignment versus a classwork assignment, because students may need some time to think and they may feel safer in that space, especially when talking about other individuals in the reflection, if they are going to. In regards to performance, there's also a peer review system that can be distributed after the play, as if they're trying to fill this out during the play, that is not necessarily as helpful. Of course, they can make some notes, but it depends on each student. As you can see, this is based on a Likert scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the least quality, and it has a section for feedback. Additional columns for humor, charisma, or a variety of other factors can be added based on a teacher's discretion and how advanced the students' writings are. Class, I remember we voted for who did the best. Of course, this can sometimes hurt feelings, but can be another informal evaluation mechanism. To a traditional classroom, the teacher ultimately has the final say on assessing each student, but their viewpoint can be altered by reading the individual's reflection and peer review to consider alternative viewpoints, since the quality of a play can be altered by people constructing their own understanding of the world, their experiences, and reflections. Using constructivist frameworks, students can interact with material on a higher level because of their interests to learn rather than being given the information beforehand. Teachers, in turn, can also understand their students on a deeper level via reflections, peer reviews, and other classroom observations. And lastly, here are my references.